we are classifying epithelia. Now, to classify epithelia, basically it is on two basic criteria. Number one, what is the shape of cells? Shape of epithelial cells, right? Shape of cells, for example, some cells in epithelial lining, they are flat cells with a central nucleus. Is that right? Now this cell is a flat cell, and in this cell, if you look, yes, that is a central nucleus, but it is like a fried egg, right? Height of the cell is very little and width of the cell is very wide. Is that right? These type of cells are called, yes, these type of cells are called squamous cells. So those epithelia which are having flat cells, we call them squamous epithelium. Then there are other epithelial cells, and those epithelial cells have equal, yes, equal height and width and depth, right? Now such cells which have these features, right, these cells are like a cube. Because these cells are like a cube, so such epithelial tissue which is having cells like cubes, they are called cuboidal epithelium. Cuboidal epithelium. Then there in some other epithelia, cells are very tall. Cells are very tall, and in these epithelia, nucleus is near the basal area. This is the apex of the cell, this is the base of the cell, right? And nucleus is pushed near the base. And when any epithelial tissue has cells which are tall, where height of the cell is too much, but width of the cell is less, right? We say these cells are like a column. And because these cells are like columns, we call them columnar cells, and such epithelia are called, yes please, which epithelia? Yes, columnar epithelium. So there is squamous epithelium when they are flat cells, there is cuboidal epithelium when there is cells with almost equal height and width, and then there are epithelia which we call it columnar epithelia, in which fundamentally cells height is too much and width is less, right? So this is columnar epithelia. Am I clear? Now, so this is one way to talk about epithelium according to the cell. And then another way to talk about epithelia is according to the how many layers of cells are there. According to the layers of cells. Layers of epithelial cells. Right? Now, when we talk about layers of epithelial cell, there may be single layer, or epithelial tissue may have multiple layers of cells. Multiple layers. Whenever there is single layer, such epithelium is called simple epithelium. And if there are multiple layers, we call this is having stratification. So when there are multiple layers, we call it stratified epithelium. Stratified epithelium. Now, simple epithelium, if it has only, yes, now you have to tell me, it has only one layer with flat cells, what is this kind of epithelium? Yes, simple squamous epithelium. What is it? Simple squamous epithelium. But if there is single layer of cells, but they are cuboidal, what is this? Simple, yes, cuboidal epithelium. And if cells are columnar, but there is only one layer of cells, what do we call it? What kind of epithelium is this? Yes, simple columnar epithelium. Important point here is in simple epithelium, all the cells which are participating in epithelial lining, all of them are attached with what? Basement membrane. All the cells are resting on the basement membrane, right? In simple epithelia, cells have single layer and all the cells are attached with the basement or resting on the basement membrane. Is that right? But when we talk about stratified epithelium, right, what really happens in stratified epithelium, that there are multiple layers, right? If there are multiple layers, then all cells are not resting on basement membrane. For example, there is a basement membrane here, right, and this is multi-layer epithelium, and let's suppose these are different cells over here, right, and cells may slightly vary in shape from layer to layer. Now, this is not simple epithelium, it is multi-layered epithelium in which only the basal cell are resting on the basement membrane and other upper layer cells are not resting on the basement membrane. So such epithelium is called stratified epithelium. Now, stratified epithelium is named according to the cells which are present at the top. Now, the cells which are present on the top layer, they are squamous cells. So this should be called what kind of epithelium? Stratified squamous epithelium. What is it? This is stratified, yes, squamous epithelium, right? Now we look at another type of epithelium, that here the cells are again multi-layered, right? Cells are multi-layered, or epithelial tissue is multi-layered, and again we have to look what is the features of cells at the top. Now in the top layer, if you look at these cells, are these squamous cells or cuboidal or columnar? Yes, these are cuboidal cells, and because all cells are not resting on the basement membrane and it is multi-layered, so it is stratified epithelium, and as the top layer is cuboidal, what we will call this type of epithelium? Yes, stratified, very good, stratified, yes, cuboidal epithelium, because you have to look at the top, cuboidal epithelium. Is that right? Then you may come across another type of epithelium. Again, it is multi-layered. So we can say that this is also stratified, but here the top cells are not squamous and top cells are not cuboidal, rather they are, yes, columnar. So how you will name this epithelium? Very good. This is called stratified columnar epithelium. This is stratified columnar epithelium. Then there is another type of epithelium which is specially found in urogenital system, and in urogenital system that epithelium, you know, for example, the epithelium which is lining the urinary bladder, right? It is 4-5 layers of cells, but it has some special feature that when urinary bladder is full of urine and urinary bladder stretch out, the layers become more or less? Layers become less. And when you pass the urine out and urinary bladder becomes smaller, then the same number of cells are accommodating into smaller area. So number of cells in a layer will be in a tissue, the layer of cells will become more. Is that right? So such type of epithelium in which when it is stretched, there are less layers, and when it is, this is when it is stretched, and when it is not stretched, right, this is making more layers, right? This type of epithelium, that when it is stretched, right, as urinary bladder is full of urine and it is stretched, it is less layer, and when urinary bladder is empty and whole epithelial cells layers become more as it gets smaller, such epithelium is called transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium, right? Transitional epithelium is only found in urinary system, right? In the ureter and calyces which drain the kidney, minor calyces which are draining the kidney, and ureters and urinary bladder and urethra. Now, what we have seen, there are simple epithelia and there are stratified epithelia. Now we go into a little more detail of every epithelium. Simple squamous epithelium, where it is found? Simple squamous epithelium is lining the cardiovascular system, right? For example, it is your blood vessel system, cardiovascular system, the epithelium which lines here, the simple squamous epithelium is called endothelium. Endothelium, right? In the same way, simple epithelium also lines the respiratory system. In the respiratory system, when air reaches to gas exchange area, there is simple epithelium lining here in the alveoli. This helps in gas exchange. That oxygen will go from the alveolar area, from air bags to the blood, and carbon dioxide will come from blood to the air bags, alveoli. So this is also simple squamous epithelium, and endothelial cells are also simple squamous epithelium. In the same way, in the kidneys also, in the kidney there are special tubes. There are tubes which are called nephrons. In one kidney you have 1.2 million nephrons. And in the nephrons, especially in this area, which are filtration unit, they are flat cells, and these are also called, yes? Simple squamous epithelium, right? Simple squamous epithelium is for filtration purpose here, for gas exchanges here, and for metabolite exchanging there. For example, glucose or amino acid from the blood go to the tissues, and maybe metabolic waste come back to the blood, right? So therefore, usually exchange epithelium. Simple cuboidal epithelium. Simple cuboidal epithelium is normally present in which tissue? Yes, simple cuboidal epithelium is normally present, number one, in the nephron. In some areas of the nephron, this is nephron. Nephrons are special tubes in the kidney which make the urine, right? So nephrons have in the filtration unit simple squamous epithelium, but here they have cuboidal cells. So nephrons may have simple cuboidal cells. And then in the same way, in the glandular ducts, many glands, their ducts are lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. In females, surface of the ovaries is also lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. Then we come to simple columnar epithelium. Classically, this epithelium is present in gastrointestinal system, right? Simple columnar is present in, yes, here. Gastrointestinal lining, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and simple columnar is also present. What is this tissue? Gallbladder. So simple columnar is also present in the gallbladder. After discussing this simple epithelium, right, I want to talk about some very special type of epithelium. Look here, there is a basement membrane here, right? Some cells are tall, other cells are not as tall. Now, this is an epithelium in which every cell is, yes, reaching up to the basement membrane, but because cells have different heights, right? Because cells are different height, some cells, cells which are top, nuclei have gone at upper level, and cells which are basal area, the nuclei are at lower level. So when you make a section under microscope, due to the presence of nuclei at different level, it looks as if this is stratified epithelium, but actually it is not stratified because every cell is resting on the, what is this? Basement membrane, right? So apparently it looks stratified epithelium, but because, why it looks stratified epithelium? Because some cells are tall and some are not tall, and nuclei are present at variable height. Is that right? So it is not truly stratified. So what we call it? What we call this type of epithelium? Yes, which looks like stratified, but it is not stratified. We call it pseudo-stratified epithelium. What is this? Pseudo mean false. It is stratified but false stratified, not a true stratified. Pseudo-stratified epithelium, right? Pseudo-stratified epithelium is found in trachea, right, and respiratory conducting pathway. In respiratory system, at the end, in the exchange area, there is simple squamous, but in upper part, this is pseudo-stratified epithelium, which is having usually cilia also, and they have some cells which release mucus secreting cells, right? These are the special features of pseudo-stratified epithelium present in airways and respiratory system. Then pseudo-stratified epithelium is also present in the epididymis. Epididymis is in the males, right? Epididymis. Do you have any question up to this? Okay, we come back now to this stratified squamous epithelium. Listen, stratified squamous epithelium has two variants. This is post-basement membrane. This is stratified squamous, but some of the stratified squamous, even though top cells are flat, but the uppermost layer cells, these are flat, but uppermost layer cells do not have nuclei. These cells are very flat and they do not have nuclei. They are just full of keratin. They are full of keratin. So this type of stratified squamous epithelium, which has at the top cells without nuclei and full of keratin protein, this type of stratified squamous epithelium is called keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. What you will call it? Keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Now classically this keratinized stratified squamous epithelium is present on your skin, right? This keratinization help you to resist the injury or abrasions or mechanical pressure on the skin, right? So there is stratified squamous epithelium which is keratinized. We also call it stratified squamous epithelium which is keratinized and dry. Usually skin is dry until you don't make it wet, right? And we also call it stratified squamous epithelium which is cornified. So cornified or keratinized, it is one and the same word, right? Cornified, C-O-R-N-I-F-I-E-D. But look, if you compare these two epithelia, both of them are stratified squamous epithelia, but this is cornified or this is keratinized, but that is not keratinized because here the top cells are having nuclei and they are not having the flat cells without nuclei with keratin. So top cells are, even though flat, but they are having nuclei. So we call it what? Stratified squamous epithelium non-keratinized or stratified squamous epithelium non-cornified. This is keratinized, that is non-keratinized. This type of epithelium is found where in the body? This is found in your oral cavity and this is found in the vagina, stratified squamous epithelium which is non-keratinized, right? And then an esophagus, right? So oral cavity, esophagus and vagina has stratified squamous epithelium non-cornified, skin has stratified squamous epithelium cornified. And then we come to stratified cuboidal epithelium. This is present in ducts of some glands. Some ducts of some glands that is having stratified cuboidal epithelium. And stratified columnar epithelium is also present in large ducts of the gland, right? And in the end, what is there? Transitional epithelium, right, which is multi-layered epithelium, but when it is stretched, layers become relatively less. When it is not stretched, layers of the cells become relatively more. This kind of epithelium is urine proof, It does not allow the urine to escape from urinary system and to reabsorb in the body. And this is called transitional epithelium, which is lining the calyces, ureter and urinary bladder with urethra. Any question here? There is no question.